State Fire Marshal Butch Browning here for a little bit. Hey, Mr. Butch, welcome back to Kiel. How you doing this morning?
Hey, good morning, my friends. How y'all doing?
This Hurricane Dorian thing is maybe you can give us a little update on this. One hour it says it's like a Cat 5 and the worst thing we've ever seen. The next time it's a Cat 3 and it's going to swing back out into the Atlantic and maybe miss everything. What have you heard on this Tuesday morning?
Well, this storm is extremely unpredictable, and the problem with it, and we've been watching it since last week in state with the leadership of the governor and GOSEP and keeping Louisiana prepared. But what you got to understand about this storm and this track is that 30 miles one way or another makes a tremendous difference on the mainland of America, and of course the Florida up into the Carolinas. So that's really been the dynamic. I mean, from an emergency response and preparedness standpoint, you got to prepare for the worst, and you got to have search and rescue, you got to have sheltering, you got to have all of the logistics to take care of people who are finding themselves in harm's way.
The crews that are going to Florida are from all over the state. I understand some Shreveport folks are going. How do you guys put this team together?
So, we started this urban search and rescue team in 2009. When I became fire marshal, it was one of the priorities to try and make sure some of the lessons learned from Hurricane Katrina, that Louisiana could cross-train some of our best of firefighters across the state and assemble them in a state asset when we have a problem in Louisiana. And we've done just that. I guess the one of the benefits of doing that is we've been recognized by other states, and this is our third out-of-state deployment in a little over a year. So we train on a regular basis. We administered in the fire marshal's office. We have a lot of regular programs where we're bringing new people into this. So we've deployed 125 USAR members, two of which are canine search dogs from the Shreveport Fire Department. Also in North Louisiana, we have 10 urban search and rescue technicians in the Monroe area that have responded, along with a host of other departments all across the state. We put them in venue, I guess, about midnight last night. They're staged just outside of Jacksonville, Florida, at Camp Blanding. We have a conference call here shortly to kind of get what the orders are going to be, the deployment orders, where they're going to be put. What I suspect, and the fire marshal in Florida is a dear friend of mine, and he relies on us for a lot of advice, and kind of the planning that we were talking about is our crews would stay in the Jacksonville area in the event that once Jacksonville is properly secured, if there's problems in the Carolinas, which if you look at the projections this morning, they're talking about that. But again, from an emergency response standpoint, we look at all the possibilities and we staff up and prepare for the worst in any area. That's just what you do. I tell people all the time, you can't follow the 4-hour tracks of a hurricane in the emergency business. You got to look at a major hurricane that can affect any of those, 4 major states that are in the target right now. So I suspect that'll be our maneuvering later today or tomorrow to punch into Jacksonville. And we have a relationship with Jacksonville 5, which is the Jacksonville Fire Department's task force. We worked with them last year. So we're already communicating with them. We know each other's capabilities, and we'll work with them. But also, I'll tell you, we have 8 of our incident support team members who are already in South Carolina, working with the South Carolina Fire Marshal, managing their incidents. So there's multiple conversations among the state fire marshals to make sure that we can maneuver our state resources to help. Again, at the end of the day, we know that these disasters affect Louisiana, and it's a question of when is the next disaster. And when we go and pay forward to our neighboring states, we get it back when Louisiana is in need. And I'm just very proud of our first responders. I'm appreciative to what they do. And, all we can do is pray for the best, but we're prepared to do what needs to be done to help save lives and property.
Mr. Butch, you mentioned specialized training. What does that entail? Specialized hurricane training?
Yeah, so what I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you cut out for a second. Go ahead, please.
No, so our urban search and rescue training, the basis of that is the ability to go into a structure, the ability to go into a confined space, underground space, or the ability to go into something high and to search that building or search that structure. And if there is collapse, if there's compromise, to be able to safely shore that building up, to go in and search it. And of course, in the event people are trapped, which is the commonality, to get those people out. That's one thing, that's one of our biggest pieces of training. But what supports that is the entire incident. There's a medical component. There's a hazmat component. Anything that you would encounter, you've got to basically bring the resources to go and mitigate that. It's not like a domestic emergency that might happen in downtown Shreveport today, where someone has a medical emergency, they dial 911, and the fire department would respond and with their EMS assets, and they would take it to the hospital. In many cases, we got to bring the hospital with us because there is no facilities. It's very primitive because of the damage. So in our cache, you see things like doctors, you see things like specially trained canines to help make those searches. So the training is very extensive, but to kind of give you an idea of what, in this incident, what's going to happen, obviously the winds dictate major structural collapse. So when a storm would pass, the USAR teams, and there's some 40 in theater between the Carolinas and Florida right now across the country, they'll be deployed in certain grids, maybe a 3 or 4 mile area each day. And their job is to go from building to building and render the building safe, make sure there's no one injured, make sure if there's anybody in the building, you get them out to sheltering, because it does, it causes another round of emergencies if people stay in a building for several days without utilities and food and water. So that primary search puts all those people in a safe haven, whether they need emergent medical attention or whether you're just trying to shelter them to get them into a safe place.
Butch, let me ask you this. How worried are you about this storm?
Well, I'm very worried if this storm skeets the entire eastern coast to the Carolinas because that's highly populated folks. I personally think the resources that are in play can handle that if that happens, but that's still danger, and it still means people get injured and people get hurt. So, I'm not worried from the standpoint of resources. I'm worried from the standpoint of what could happen, and we just hope that don't happen.